So it's an interesting question that people ask. What's my purpose? What am I here for? What's the contribution that I can make? And you've heard us say already here today that when you manage to get yourself into this vortex so that you are perceiving whatever you're perceiving through the eyes of source, that whatever you hold as your object of attention benefits just by your attention to it. Because in your strong connection with source, when there's no split energy, you're more powerful than millions who are not. When you are in this vortex, you're more powerful than millions outside of it. And whatever you hold as your object of attention, you evoke the very best from them. In other words, you match for the time of your attention their vortex relative to them. And so it's an extremely uplifting experience for them. As long as you are living, and you always are, there's always this constant expansion and your exhilarating experience of getting to get up to speed with that furthest, most expanded place. And that is the purpose of life. We would go so far as to say the purpose of life is closing the gap, because the purpose of life is joy, and that's where that exhilaration comes from. Now stay with us just for a minute. Those of you who have been with us for a while, this is going to take you to a new place of understanding. So contrast causes me to ask for something that I don't have. I beat the drum of not having it, which causes me to ask and ask and ask. Law of attraction assembles it. And now I pay attention to how I feel, do some focus wheels, come into alignment with it, and get up to speed with what I've asked for. The most exhilarating part of life is from that moment that you approach the edge of your vortex. Now we want to tell you, the edge of the vortex, someone says, is it really as defined as you are making it out to be, Abraham? And we say, of course it is not as clearly defined, but it helps to define it in the way that we are defining it. We talked about that emotional scale for a while, and on that emotional scale where despair is on one end, where you feel disempowered, and joy and appreciation are on the other, where you feel empowered, true empowerment and freedom. So there is disempowerment and there is fear right down there together, and then there is anger or revenge, and then less anger, and then overwhelmment, and then frustration, and then hopefulness, and then belief, and then knowing. This vortex edge is right there between belief and hope. So when you get into the vicinity of hope, now you are on the brink of your vortex, and the joy of life that you all seek, that everyone you know seeks, is that feeling of exhilaration of getting into that range of hope and feeling the vortex then take you in to belief and knowing and manifestation. In other words, that's the woo feeling of your physical life experience. That is where the joy factor truly, truly is. So if we can convince you that the purpose of your life is to have that exhilarating feeling of coming into alignment with who you are, the purpose of your life is joy. The purpose of your life is getting up to speed with who you are. But in order for there to be an expanded you to get up to speed with, there must be contrast that causes you to ask. So the triad of intentions are: the purpose of your life is joy. The basis of your life is freedom to explore this contrast. And then the result of all of that will be that expansion. So whether we say the purpose of your life is expansion or freedom or joy, they are all equal components of this triad of intentions that you held and understood prior to your emergence as you came forth. None of you came to fix a broken world. You didn't see it as broken. None of you came to enlighten the world because you understood that it's an individual thing. You came for your own enlightenment. You came for your own alignment. You came selfishly wired, understanding that contrast would cause you to expand constantly, and that the greatest joy in your life would be to give birth to an expanded version of you, and then to bring the rest of you up to speed with it. There is nothing in all of the universe that is more exhilarating than that. And you say, and what's my purpose? And we say, your purpose is the inevitable expansion which you cannot avoid. But your deliberate intention was to come forth and experience the joy of that inevitable expansion. And that's what we mean by being in the vortex. It means to be physically focused, to be managing your contrast in such a way that you can have closed this gap and be offering only one vibration, the vibration that connects with everything that you are and everything that you've asked for, with an absence of resistance happening. That's what being in the vortex is. Do you know that almost all of politics is outside the vortex? All religion is outside the vortex. You go to a family reunion, it's outside the vortex, outside the vortex, outside the vortex. Well, what can we do about this? And how can we fix that? And what's wrong with that? And well, that happened way back then. And do you remember when that happened? And I saw that coming. And what did she say about it? And what did he say about it? Well, you know, it was her first husband that started that. Before you just kill me now, you can never ever sort that stuff out. But all of that contrasting stuff, all of it is the fodder that helps you to ask and ask and ask and ask. And when you have the clarity to say, I don't need to stir it up. Esther will say to Jerry, I just want to talk about this just a little more, just for a point of clarity. And Jerry will say, please let clarity come soon. Because he clearly wanted to get in the vortex 20 minutes ago. He doesn't see the point of trying to sort it out anymore. In other words, you only have one thing to do. Once you feel some negative emotion, just stop and say to yourself, I know what I don't want. What is it that I do want? And then do anything and everything you can to get in the vortex. And once in there, the manifestations will be your indicators of your shift in vibration. And that is your reason for being. We're eager to talk with you about anything that is important to you. It is our desire to coax you into the vortex on whatever the subject is. We have a whole bag of tricks to help you find your way in. But most of all, we want you to know that once you understand these two vibrational aspects of you, you're now going to understand everything that you've ever lived or everything that anybody else is living. In other words, there are no mysteries once you understand the laws of the universe. And the laws of the universe are very simple. Law of attraction says that which is likened to itself is drawn. So in this non-physical vortex, everything vibrational that is likened to your desire has already been assembled. That's why we can look into your vortex of creation and let you know it is absolute that what you want is done. The expanded, evolved version of you is vibrationally completed. But then you say, but Abraham, I'm here in a physical body, in a physical world. I want manifestations around me. And we say, and they will come, but not until you cue yourself up vibrationally and become a match to the precursor of all creation. You've got to bring yourself vibrationally up to speed, and it is our promise to you that the physical trappings will show themselves to you. But there's one thing that we want to say to you. You didn't come for the physical trappings, and we're not trying to talk you out of them. We want you to have them. You came for the exhilaration of coming into alignment with you. You came in this body knowing that contrast would help you to expand. And you knew that once the expansion had taken place, that the sweetest ride of your life would be in the getting up to speed with that expansion. It's not just the getting of the stuff or the landing of the relationship or the deposit into your bank account of the dollars that you're seeking. It's not only the manifestation that is meant to give you those good feelings. It is the emotional alignment that is responsible for the good feelings. And if you can get this thing that we're going to say to you next, your life will be blissful from this point forward. If you can be happy in anticipation of what's coming, you'll be happy forevermore, and everything you want will come quickly. You have to look forward and be happy in anticipation of what's coming. Happy in anticipation of what's coming. Because when you're hopeful, you're on the brink of your vortex. And when you're on the brink of your vortex, it brings you in. Frequently. And when you get in there, you have full sight. When you get into the vortex, vibrationally speaking, when you are up to speed and in that vortex, that's when you start rendezvousing with the things that really matter. That's when meaningful things start happening. That's when the speed of life picks up. That's when you feel vital and alive and frisky. That's when your feeling of passion comes over you. That's when you begin living exactly as you knew you would when you came. You did not come forth to suffer. You did come forth to sift contrast, but it was your plan to launch the rocket, then turn your attention to the idea in anticipation of the receiving of the desire and ride that joyful wave to its completion. And you knew that there would always be another platform and another set of contrasting experiences and another rocket. We are eager to talk with you about anything that is important to you. There is nothing that is off limits. Don't be surprised if we do not encourage very much of your out of the vortex conversation. But we do appreciate and acknowledge the value of some of that out of the vortex conversation. Step 1 is sifting through contrast. It's when you ask. Step 2 is source answers. That's this vortex of creation we're talking about. Step 3 is you got to get in the vortex. That's what the art of allowing is. So, very good unfolding here. A little slow going, but don't you now know more about the vortex than you've ever known? Don't you understand your relationship with it? Don't you know what your dominant priority is? Don't you understand your guidance system better? Don't you want to think the thoughts that feel better? Aren't you willing to be nicer to yourself when you're not in the vortex? Aren't you willing to let everybody else off the hook who hasn't been trying that hard to make you feel good? Aren't you ready to take responsibility for how you feel? Don't you sort of feel empowered to do it? Don't you love the feeling of being out of the vortex and then consciously, deliberately focusing yourself in? Don't you love coming into your own power? Don't you really like knowing that the universe has your back, that everything that you want's all queued up for you and it's just a matter of focusing yourself into it? Don't you now, from inside the vortex, appreciate more of those outside the vortex contrasting experiences that have caused you to expand? Don't you like knowing that you will constantly expand? Don't you like knowing that it's going to be a constant tuning up? Don't you like that it's going to be a constant tuning up? Don't you like that it's going to be a constant tuning up? Well, that's the part you don't like so much, because you keep thinking you want to get in the vortex and get it done and live happily ever after. And we want you to hear something that is hard to hear, but it is so, so true. And that is, it's getting into the vortex that is the rush of life. Just like when you're hungry and you eat something, it tastes better than when you've been eating all day long. When you're out of the vortex and then you work your way in, that's that zest. That's that feeling. That's that feeling of motion forward, you see. You just don't want to make a career out of step 1. You want to make a career out of step 3, which is moving into the vortex, into the vortex. And each time you're in there, then you can look at those people who you felt were responsible for your not being in, and now they look beautiful to you because they gave you the reason to expand, and in your moving into your expansion, you are thrilled with everyone involved. So you have this person, and they just harass you into expansion, 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 expansion. But then you can't get your eyes off of them because they're just so in your face and so inappropriate. So the very person that caused your expansion is now the person you're using not to take your expansion, and that's why you're extra, extra mad at them. But when you're in the vortex, you'll be extra, extra appreciative of their having prodded you into expansion, and you're using your guidance and wisdom to now take your expansion. There's still a little bit of, oh, Abraham, just get me in the vortex. Let me just get in the vortex. I'm tired of not being in the vortex. I just want to get in the vortex where good things can start happening to me. And we say, get in the vortex and good things will start happening to you. It is law. We've enjoyed this interaction immensely. It is delicious to come together with those like you who are coming more and more, moment by moment, really, to know who you are. Today, we feel satisfaction. For these reasons, we have felt your willingness to focus for inordinate amounts of time, for the sheer purpose of understanding this vortex of creation that we've been talking about. It has been slow going here today. There was not much about it that was really fast moving. But in the process of that, what has been activated within each of you is an understanding, most importantly, of your ability, if you want to, under any circumstances, to become a vibrational match to the vibrational reality that precedes your manifestations. If you can leave here today understanding the relationship between who you really are and who you're being, and if you can leave here today with a new, resourced attitude about wanting more than anything else